Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our program is about to begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, our program is about to begin. Please silence your cell phones or place them on vibrate.
أيها السيدات والسادة، سيبدأ البرنامج بعد قليل، لذا نرجو منكم التكرم بالجلوس في مقاعدكم.
Absolutely on the point.
I really enjoyed the environment, enjoyed the topics that they gave us.
Ahmed, Derya, do you hear us? Oh, okay, so now we're on. Thank you, Abdel-Aal, much appreciated, and we're really happy to be here. What a time, what a kind of an emergence from COVID-19. So I think we're going to get used to this hybrid model where we have our guests in here, some in person and some virtual, and I believe this is going to be the way to go, in addition to the beautiful and lovely audience that we have in the crowd. Hello, everyone. My name is Hattan Ahmed. I'm the head of the Entrepreneurship Center at KAUST, and I'm really excited to be here and discuss with our really respected guests in here to learn their journeys on entrepreneurship. And I believe we have a mixed crowd in here, different people from different areas, and students and staff and researchers. And we'd love to share different perspectives on where we're going. So today we have with us Sir Paul Strike, who's coming in from UK and got amazing venture that he's gone through over the past 20 years. We'd love to learn more about that. And also virtually, we have with us Mohamed Abdel-Aal, director of KAUST Smart. And I believe he hears me. I'm just checking in voice. So wave or say hello, Mohamed, please, if you do.
I hear you.
Perfect. Good to have you here, Mohamed. And also, we have our beloved Derya Baran, our faculty member and adventurer and venture creator in KAUST, and a lot of inspiration, a lot of stories she got to share with us today. So welcome, Derya. Do you hear me? And
Nice to be here. Hi, Hattan.
all right, great. So thank you. We'll kick it off then. So, Paul, welcome to KAUST. Welcome to Saudi.
Thank you very much.
I believe you arrived over the past 24 hours recently, and would love to hear from you, especially that you are in the, let's say, diving gear entrepreneurship space. How was your dive over the weekend?
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah, I was very, very lucky to be able to have two dives yesterday, actually. The first on the research reef, the coral garden. Which was fascinating, and thoroughly enjoyed that. And then, of course, we dived on a reef a little further out, which again was also fantastic. So, yeah, had a great couple of dives yesterday. Thanks.
Yeah, I used to dive, but I haven't dove for a little bit of a while in here. But I know some of friends who dive and some who fish as well. I think the beauty is like you get the experience to dive with researchers and scientists, and then you get nice different angle on stuff when you dive with the experts.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly.
So, Paul, you founded the Fourth Element.
Yep.
And now you've been running it over, let's say, 20 years.
That's right.
And it started with an inspiration out of a dive in Sharm el-Sheikh.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
I really wanted to hear the story. I mean, like, what was that a kind of inspiration? And how did you move from an inspiration after a nice dive in the Red Sea in Sharm el-Sheikh all the way to this global reach for your gear across the globe?
It was my now business partner and I had a great dive in the Red Sea, as you say, at Sharm el-Sheikh. And we were discussing after the dive what a fabulous experience it was. And that then led into a conversation over dive equipment and dive industry as we understood it. I mean, neither of us were involved in the diving industry as such at that time. And I had just recently completed my instructor course, doing my training in a very cold, flooded quarry in the UK in March. And the water was incredibly cold. And I was incredibly cold for the entire time. So this was a recent experience, and we started talking about performance thermal wear, which was particularly relevant because it seemed from that experience that there wasn't a lot of very good quality thermal gear to keep the divers warm. Many of the dive instructors that were actually involved in the training and the examination were also cold. It wasn't that I had the wrong equipment; it was that there seemed a gap, shall we say, in the market. And my business partner also felt that there was very little available as a kind of lifestyle brand, much in the way that surf had Quicksilver or Billabong and a brand that they could identify with. And so this conversation developed, and we started talking about what would a brand that could encompass high-performance thermal protection and a lifestyle brand, what would it look like? And as we say, that was... The rest is history. That was
wow.
Yeah, the moment as such.
What an inspiration. So, what about the technology? How did you tackle the technology challenge or barrier in order to acquire the technology to stand out from the crowd and stand out from what's out there at the time when the diving gear was not kind of providing enough thermal insulation?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we both had a lot of experience of doing other activities. Particularly me, we're skiing and kayaking and goodness knows what. So you start appreciating that there is equipment to keep you warm. So that was a starting point. And then a lot of research basically on what was available currently in the marketplace. We had some meetings with people who supplied specialist fabrics, and that opened our eyes to a whole new world and a whole new approach to the kind of way in which thermal protection was being made. And there was lots of practical things that we felt at the time could have been improved upon in terms of how the garments were made, how they were actually constructed, what the limitations were, the sizing, the lack of or the restriction, that you felt when you put one of the kind of one-piece kind of little boiler suits on, and you've got a one zip up the front, and it's quite restrictive. So there was lots of elements on which we could look at improving. So the actual thermal performance was one, the comfort, the effectiveness of fit, and trying to make something that actually looked appealing so that you didn't look like you were just wearing a kind of oversized baby grow, if that makes sense. So, that was how we basically approached it. And,
wow. Well, an interesting insight. So I'm sure that dive in Sharm el-Sheikh was in winter, right?
Yes.
It was kind of, it's chilly water. It's like, how can we solve that? Amazing inspiration. I'll get back to more details. I got a lot of questions for that. But I really wanted to get to Derya, where Derya started from the other end, where she got amazing research coming out from her lab. And actually, she's not one-off or first-time kind of entrepreneur, but she got a lot of great technologies that are popping up. And remember, even during when the pandemic hit and we did the innovation challenge, she came up with an amazing solution in there. But Derya, my question to you, given the high quality research that you're running and the busy schedule that you do have and the big team you're managing, how do you spot those kind of amazing opportunities within your research portfolio and research outputs, and you say, this is the one, I want to move forward, I want to pick it up, this is going to make something really interesting?
Thanks, Hattan. I think it was very good to hear from Paul anyways, and I think most of the ideas come from a chat and really questioning, I guess, right? And we are not, especially me, not a business person, and unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, our motivation is not coming from sort of what would make money, or is more coming from a problem aspect, and that's how actually we came up with the antimicrobial phone cases to start with, as well as a part of KAUST innovation, COVID innovation challenge, right? So I would say it's the feeling to make an impact as a scientist that keeps me making new ideas and create new solutions as well. And as a scientist, obviously, you don't have to have my end ideas have to be used today, right? So they can be picked up years later, or a century later sometimes. But I realized that the intersection of this scientist entrepreneur is quite nice to see that your ideas come true and used also as a technology product, basically. Yeah. So curiosity and questioning is the way I would say. And in fact, if you let me say, and the whole antimicrobial additives idea came during our lockdown. We were in lockdown 6 months, and I was feeling so bad. I'm not doing research on chemistry or drugs or related topics. I was like, oh, it's so pity. I wish I was involved and I could make an impact. And I started to think, like, what else I could do, as a scientist. And some of our materials and composites, which we use for completely different reasons, we realized they could have also antiviral and antimicrobial properties. And then we were printing them, etc. And and we started to think how we could actually reach this to the consumer people, because there was already this type of products, but they were all in medical, right? You couldn't see it. And that's how it actually came. I don't know if it was really a good business idea or not, but at least that was a fun idea.
But the good news is that you built a really great team around it, and I believe they got really nice casing, Paul, and I believe maybe it's available at Majjar, so it would be a nice kind of, let's say, casing that you have, which is anti kind of microbial casing for phones.
That's right. If I'm out of quarantine, I'll deliver one to my dad.
Sure, sure. And that's kind of the benefits of, let's say, those kind of challenges. And usually pressure times create those kind of opportunities that we capture to couple technologies with existing challenges, and then we package it together, bring the team together, and then they will create an impact with it. So very well done. I'll come back to Iris as well, Derya, which I'd love to hear more about and let the audience as well know more about it. But if you allow me, I wanted to move to Mohamed. And Mohamed, KAUST, amazing stuff that you're creating in there. And actually, we work closely with Mohamed in deploying those technologies into the initiative. So if you can let everybody know about what KAUST is, and what's the relationship, or how KAUST is supporting entrepreneurs and founders for their deployment within their technologies?
Sure, definitely, Hattan. KAUST was born and inspired by the city of KAUST that we live in. We realized, and our president realized, and our CIO, the opportunity that KAUST is a flat organization with a university and a city attached to it, a unique value proposition that allows us to take advantage of that entire community, city, housing, business, buildings, roads, to allow us to actually do a little bit more of rapid experimentation for smart cities. I'm in the technology space, I'm in the IT world, and we've seen how technology evolves so quickly to the point where time is the opportunity. And if you wait and don't do anything, that idea becomes very, very much old very quickly. So how do we create that rapid experimentation to try things out and allow us to take advantage of that city of KAUST to do these, let's say, wild experiments, things that have not been done before, or things the world is trying to prove, but they have a challenge proving it, because outside of KAUST, anywhere in the world, you end up with a real city. You have a lot of rules, policies, regulations, municipality level, city level, state, federal, you name it. Everybody is adding more, let's say, bureaucracy to a process of innovation. Now, in the city of KAUST, we're fairly flat, and we can run these experiments and do this, let's say, futuristic ideas and see what it means. Does it have a place in a city? Does it have a place in a real world, or is it just a good idea but it does not really evolve further? Some of these ideas we're doing, as some of you know, we're testing, let's say, drone delivery in a smart city. And again, is there a place for it? We're going to find out. We're testing autonomous mobility. And again, the challenge with autonomous comes with a lot of mixed road usage, bicycles, humans. Safety is obviously number one priority when it comes to autonomous driving. And we're testing these ideas further as well. And many, many more.
Yeah, and also the KAUST house, the smart house as well, been deployed, where I believe it's deploying really good number of startups. And I love the idea of a living lab kind of deployment. So we got a controlled environment, and then you're helping and working with the entrepreneurs to experiment to the unknown.
With the entrepreneurship side, basically what we do is we want to open up KAUST to allow the entrepreneurs to experiment freely. You want to take your idea, your prototype, your MVP, and let's say scale it to a small degree in KAUST and create that success story, create the product development, learn and adjust, and then again, hopefully propose that to a bigger cities that are a larger scale or larger deployments outside of KAUST.
Yeah. So basically, you're trying to redefine those experiences that we live today and reimagine it, how it's going to look in the future.
Absolutely.
Right? And I believe the workshops, the design thinking workshops that you're trying to open for everybody. So this is, I think, a call for the audience as well to participate in revamping those kind of experiences or journeys that we live in and how we can imagine it into the future.
Definitely. That's the whole idea, is to allow people to engage and allow the community to be part of it as well.
Perfect. Perfect. So it's good to hear that. And I believe one of the technologies that you're developing is Derya's technology in Iris, right? So, Derya, if you share with the audience, what is Iris and how did it start?
Yes. Do you want to come to the end of Iris' story later? Or?
We'll come to that, yes. We'll come to that, which is a very exciting end as well, but let's just keep the punchline towards the end.
Sure. So Iris is actually, which we call a breakthrough technology startup in the energy field, where we bring solutions for energy harvesting devices and the solution to heat in the Middle East and globally as well, let's say. What we are doing is we're developing transparent photovoltaics in order to block the heat and also generate electricity from the near-infrared spectrum of the sun that is hitting to us every day. So we've been working about this actually in the last 3.5, 4 years. And I say this is also a breakthrough technology, and it's not like I say to some people, it's not a software, unfortunately, that you just say, I did it in 6 months or a year or maybe longer term. It's a collation of years of experience and knowledge, and that's how it came as a completely different technology. As you know, silicon solar panels are opaque, and when you put it in your roof or land, wherever, that you cannot see the back of it, obviously. And one idea was we could use our technology in the buildings as building integrated photovoltaics, and also, which we realized later on, in greenhouses. Because in the Middle East and also globally, it's a huge problem, unlike Netherlands or Sweden greenhouses, and that they try to cool the greenhouse for the cold times. In these regions, people are trying to really cool it down. I said heat the greenhouse. We are trying to cool it down, and it was a big problem. So our technology could be a solution to this one, where actually the near-infrared light is absorbed and that's converted to electricity, and that means it's not hitting to the plants anymore, and that can leave the greenhouse cooler and let the plants grow happily. So that's what we've been trying to achieve. And in a couple of months, good news, inshallah, we will have our 200 square meter prototype that will be installed in the KAUST greenhouse next to the Entrepreneurship Center.
Congratulations, very well done. And that's the norm of the deep tech startups, right? Because it's been in research for a while, and that's the nature of it. It's time consuming, it's a lot of resources, it requires a really good number of patience, but we get the brain power, the talent to pull this through. And as you're competing on international scale on advancing that technology moving forward. So very well done, great to hear that, and really look forward to see what's next for Iris as well, yeah. So,
yeah, thank you.
I wanted to go back to Paul. So, Paul, you started your venture 20 years ago. So, and now you're operating at a global scale, and you're selling your products in very wide ranges of, let's say, geographies across the globe. And and you dressed out of a dive in Sharm el-Sheikh, an inspiration came in for a problem that is real, and then you put together, you and your co-founder, the plan and the journey into it. So I really wanted to go back in time, and how was it starting that kind of venture in terms of technology, fundraising? What are the challenges that you overcome and setbacks before you get to this global reach?
Yeah, there were many, many challenges, there's no doubt. I mean, neither of us had a background in business or in garment manufacture, so we weren't exactly well qualified. But we did have an ambition, and we had a vision of what we could become or what we wanted to do, which was to improve the diving experience, and by being more comfortable in the water, by being initially warmer. So that was the catalyst, and I suppose in a very naive way, we kind of, well, a mix of naivety and excitement, and we just kind of had a go. I mean, it was as simple as that. We didn't really have a fabulous sort of strategy planned out. We just thought we would try. And of course, then we kind of come up against things like, if you want investment, you need a business plan, and you need to be able to actually, have an idea and stated ambition, financially and everything. We weren't, not surprisingly, we didn't have huge investment. We grew very much organically, which meant that we had to kind of, we had to work hard to obtain the materials and to develop things in the early stages, just the two of us, where we would design, try and, say, solve the problems, think it through, try stuff out. Trying to find some people who could actually make our initial samples was quite challenging. I think we didn't have a garment factory. So there were so many challenges, from trademarking through to actually understanding how you put, a garment together or create one. So as I say, there was a great deal of naivety, but a great deal of desire to actually overcome these challenges. And the excitement, I think, was what, largely drove us forwards. And so when we did actually achieve some products that we took to people and said, can you try this? This is something that we think would be a better solution. And of course, not, that was another challenge, because a lot of people said, well, it was different, and so it wasn't as thick and as bulky, but it was, we felt would keep you as warm. And so you were having to overcome that challenge of convincing people to give it a try. And, when people did start trying it, then they went, oh, okay, yeah, this is good. And, that obviously gave us greater confidence to go forwards. So it was very much that kind of little bit, make some achievement, or, creating products that were then being well received, giving us the confidence to take the next step. Nice. And very organically, just gradually increasing the range. You start building the brand, getting better recognition, great customers finding some confidence in what you were doing. Obviously at a very, very small scale initially, very, very small. And then over the years, that's gradually developed. I mean, obviously we've brought in more staff that, do lots of things far better than Jim and I could do, which is always, I would say, a great thing to achieve, is always, bring people in who are better than you, which is one of the things I've learned, through this 20 years of business.
Wow.
And obviously, as you say, we now export to, I think it's between 50 and 60 countries, and have just under a couple of thousand dealers worldwide. And by no means have we kind of cracked it, should we say, but we're a much more stable, company now, and are still excited about innovating and creating new product.
Wow.
That's still fundamentally what drives us.
Very exciting. So the key secret sauce for it, and I love the fact that you're experimented on a very small number of people and getting immediate feedback. It's like, how did that work for you? And this is where you sounds like you create this closed loop before you move one step ahead of time, right? So to get that kind of validation. Did you ask for referral or ask people, it's like, hey, would you try it? Would you recommend it to your colleague divers?
Yes, exactly that. I mean, a lot of the people we were asking to try the product were people who were making the purchasing decision at retail outlets. Mm-hmm. So if they used the product and were happy with it, then they would possibly even recommend it to some of their customers. And it was a very slow start. We didn't have a huge amount of funding, so we couldn't embark on a huge advertising campaign. But we basically just kind of gradually built a reputation that took, quite a few years to achieve, where because we'd approached products or the creation of products in I suppose, a fairly pure way about how we can actually make a product better, mm-hmm. then we started generating a sort of following that kind of got that. Yeah. We weren't just copying products that other people were making. Yeah. We were trying to make the experience of scuba diving more enjoyable by producing better product. Wow. And that was kind of, it's always been our mantra.
Yeah, really. But what a better advertisement of having somebody selling for you your product, saying it's like, oh, this really works, I love it, then I would recommend it to my colleagues and my friends, and you get that network effect of viral growth and activity, which is way better. A lot of other companies as well, even they spend $0 on advertisement and reach where people, they just kind of consume it because people are recommended, and that's the best advertisement you can ever have.
Absolutely. And divers love to talk about their diving experiences.
Yes.
And we were very thankful of that because, the way that really spread the word throughout the UK diving scene, you might say. Mm-hmm. And people, be getting on, ribs, on the boats going out to dive sites, talking about, how cold they are or how warm they are, and you ought to try this. And that was, hugely significant for us in those early days, where people started to, learn about the product through referral. And as you say, there's nothing better really than somebody saying, this works for me, this keeps me warm. Why don't you give it a try?
Beautiful.
And so, that was
beautiful. And recently, Paul, also you talked to the UN about the sustainability aspect of your solution. Yeah. Can you please expand to that? What are the sustainability angle you're approaching in order to address the global challenge of sustainability?
Yeah, I was very fortunate and very honored to talk at the UN at the Oceans Conference a few years ago now. And it was largely through my involvement with the Global Ghost Gear Initiative, which is, as it sounds, a global organization focused on the removal and prevention of lost and abandoned fishing gear ending up in the ocean, where it is the biggest by weight and volume contributor of plastic in the marine environment by far. And also every year it's increasing by the magnitude of hundreds of thousands of tons, and sometimes continues to fish even when the gear is lost. So it's catching fish, for hundreds of years before it actually degrades. So I was very involved in this organization, and it was through them that I was asked to talk at the UN from a business perspective on that kind of initiative, where the value in recycling plastics, or in this case nylon, from fishing nets, and creating a kind of a commercial reason or a commercial draw on using those recycled yarns in garments to enable that whole system to have a longevity. Yes. Because clearly there had to be a commercial benefit or gain or opportunity for the companies who are actually investing in creating recycled yarns from such waste material or from material that's actively removed from the ocean to sustain that as an actual activity. And so that was basically my brief, you might say, was looking at the kind of commercial perspective on recycling and the fact that it could work financially and you could run a business with that as a core to it, rather than it being looked on as an additional expense that you could do without. And since that point, we've basically focused entirely on how we can actually reduce impact and recycle more of the material, or use recycled materials more and more in every product that we develop, basically.
For me, it's really fascinating how over the past maybe 100 years, like we always have this kind of open loop systems by designing stuff and then getting rid of it after we're done, right?
Yeah.
But now we're kind of realizing the impact and the severity of the impact that is happening to the ocean, to the air, to the environment. And this is really great. I mean, this is so novel initiative that you're undertaking, and and I wanted to switch gears as well to Mohamed, where I think one of the key areas as well that you're doing in KAUST on the let's say the smart house activity is the geothermal cooling system, which is obviously trying to achieve zero kind of energy house, imagining the house of your future. So can you a little bit expand into that and explore, let's say, sustainability kind of opportunities and solutions that you're deploying that might be of an interest to the audience and align with your vision?
Yeah, I mean, when we say smart cities, it doesn't mean tech and digital only. Smart means a lot of things. One of them is tech and digital, but a lot of it is actually now recently more focused on sustainability, energy, water consumption, and how humans in a city or business in a city is able to continue to maintain a sustainable environment. It's not a choice, really. It's a must. And if you look at how Earth is designed around cities, there's a huge, massive opportunity to create smart cities that can help and contribute to sustainability goals of the world. What we did here at KAUST, and again, with KAUST Smart, there's multiple things. One of them is how do we do living in a smart city? And the smart home is something that our colleagues in facilities management at KAUST have really taken on the lead and took the initiative and said, let's explore new ways of energy, and let's explore ideas of sustainable homes. And with our help and their participation, we all said, let's do the same principle of let's experiment with ideas and see what happens, right? And let's not try to do it all at once. I was actually, Paul's ideas about reiterative product development and innovation is the way to go. You start small and you start to increment and add and add and add, and the journey continues from there. So the smart home is one example of testing and experimenting with new ideas around geothermal cooling, solar energy with Iris and Derya, and even plant-based sciences, and how do you do irrigations in a smart home? How do you sustain water reuse of a smart home? And again, how do you even explore ideas around, we mentioned drone delivery, but again, how do you deliver packages to a new smart home in a city? So there's a bit of an experiment going on with drone delivery as well. So basically, that smart home is a living lab of experiments. Some of them would work, some of them would actually not work and would fail. And we are happy and proud to say, that didn't work, and here's why it didn't work. Let's go do something different. And again, if you get that model working and you get that prototype working, we know that this becomes a high value, especially around the kingdom, because we have a lot of common things with other bigger cities being built around the kingdom. Neom, for example, they're all greenfield opportunities to design and build homes from scratch. So when you have this greenfield opportunity, you want to take a shot at something that really works well. So what we do at KAUST here is a small prototype for what a bigger community could be designed around. But it doesn't stop at a home, right? It's also the home, it's also the street, it's also your surrounding neighborhood. So think of a smart home, then a smart neighborhood, then a smart city. They're all interconnected. And again, the central piece to it is the human being, right? So what we do and what we focused on from the beginning under the KAUST Smart principle It's not about the technology, it's not about the ideas, it's really about the user experience. So if you put the people in the middle and ask them what would be a smart living for them and what would it mean, and we've done that, they give you feedback and you take that feedback and continue to develop the idea further based on the human need, not based on the technology, let's say, value proposition. Because sometimes there's a bit of we start wrong. We start from a technology perspective and push it forward. We believe that you begin with the user experience and bring it in, and then start to put the pieces together around what does the user experience want, and then this is the way to go. And we've proved that the community's interests are actually part of the design of the smart home today at KAUST.
So basically you're saying our current system is broken and our job is to fix it, right? And this is an open call, I think, for everybody here in the crowd in order to chime in, contribute, stand up, and get engaged into the game and be part of this change, because I think it's a race towards fixing this global system that we're breaking, right?
Well, Earth is, as we all know, Earth is being pushed to its limits. So it's up to the innovators.
Very fragile.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thanks, Mohamed. Before we go to the crowd and open the floor for questions for the audience who are with us here in person, where we get some mics as well to ask those questions. And all, for those who are online, you can text us, and I think I'll get it from my colleague Abdel-Aziz. I'll get the questions on the mobile in here. I want to go back to you, Derya. So you're at the center of the sustainability in the energy space, right? And you have really close look at what's happening and what's the potential and the future is holding for us. So can you please share with us your thoughts, your future opportunities? Where do you see the future trends might go to in terms of the energy kind of conservation or energy trends that are happening that might open really great entrepreneurial or venture opportunities for everybody in here to tap into?
Yeah, thanks, Hattan, for the opportunity again. Yes, sustainability is a very broad and buzzy topic as well, and we've been following it since the start of the WEP too, and in any other events that you would find, actually. But I'm thinking anything we're doing, considering the environment around us, could be on a sustainable level, if it makes sense, with our livings. And I've been following the questions as well to some of the key talks. People were asking what could we do in the individual levels, and they were saying more like not much, and governments and so on, business should decide. And I'm like, who's making the business? And Mohamed said it so well. Who's making the government? People, us, and the next generation. Yes. And people sitting maybe in this room, and people having higher education. So it's all us who's going to actually change it, and whatever we do would make an impact, I feel, thoughtfully. In the future, though, KAUST is pushing the limits on this whole food, water, and energy nexus already, and lots of work is going on, especially in NEOM too. I think people realize when the move of the renewables, people realize, like, hold on, we need to somehow save it, right? And I think the battery research and business is going to accelerate hugely, because so far people were just storing it and it was sort of fine, and now with all this renewables, we need to find alternative ways to store it and integrate it and make them also sustainable. So that's, I think, is a way forward. And also used for different applications for solar. We've been talking about it, like solar is not just solar cells, you can do radiative cooling, for instance, there are concentrators, there are photocatalysis. There's lots of ways that you can take energy out of the abundant sources, for instance, which are renewable. So these type of technologies, I think, will pick up because they all contribute to the sustainability and, using, again, abundant and not hurting energy sources, let's say. And also in the food, obviously, I was saying with Iris now recently, we merged with Red Sea Farms. And we realized actually you cannot work in just one dimension, and it needs to be like in the smart house moment, it needs to cover all these dimensions. So we need to work towards a sustainable future. So what we do now, actually bringing the energy side with Iris and the food and water side in Red Sea Farms, we're combining it with, let's say, smart controlling systems. You have to deliver all, basically, and it's a great mission. I think there will be a lot of other startup ideas around the smart control, as again, Mohamed mentioned, how the users will want it. I think that's really a key question to think, rather than what I have or what are the current technologies. This will bring really disruptive solutions to really think as a consumer, or as a final point, to think, how do you envisage a sustainable world? How do you think a future of sustainability will bring you? You don't have to now accept everything around you, because we are going to make that future, if it makes sense. So these are my thoughts, and I think, again, especially KAUST students and people are so fortunate in all this game, being in such an environment and, thriving ideas, so much intellectualism around you. I think just take it all and use it to the most, to take to the ideas. And for the online, if we have other speakers, again, we're going through really hard times through the whole world, and we will be the solution, and the next generations will be the solution. Don't think that we cannot make an impact, and governments or, policies should make the impact. We will be the people making voice, so that contributes to the bigger change. So yeah, that's what I can say.
Thank you, Derya. I mean, I love how you define, not limiting the energy and the sustainable solution only to the solar technologies, but expanding it to the systems. And maybe for the audience who are not familiar with Red Sea Farms, it's one of the startups in KAUST, and basically they developed a sustainable solution using salt water for cooling system for the greenhouses, and also for irrigation for green crops. And it's an amazing journey. They're doing really great. Look them up and you'll find more info. And congratulations on the merger, Derya. And this is really, yeah, exactly. Congratulations. Yeah. So
it's been very exciting.
Yes, very exciting times, and really look forward to see what's coming up next with Red Sea Farms, because what you guys are doing is phenomenal. So I wanted to open to check in here if there is any questions from the crowd or from the audience. Abdel-Aziz, if you got any questions coming in, please. Oh, okay, so I got some. All right, cool. Didn't get it. So if you, yeah, okay. So, all right, so we'll see if we can get those as well, even on email and so on, so we can answer those questions. But if there is anybody here with us in the crowd wanted to, yeah, we got a question here for you, yes. Please. If you introduce yourself and fire a question to whoever you want to.
Thank you. My name is Ali Douhi. I'm a PhD student here at KAUST. Thank you all of the panelists for this nice presentation. My question is for Professor Derya. So since now we have seen both the entrepreneurship side and you are actually from the academic side, have you changed the way you're doing research, the way you tackle the problems that you're seeing in terms of thinking mostly entrepreneurship side, or only purely the scientific side? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. I have to say I'm going through that phase, and that's an honest reply. Yeah, true, because the more you start to see solutions, the more you're intrigued by those type of questions, and that actually changed a little bit your perspective to the problems. So I'm trying to do both at the moment, but I also feel that it might come to a point that I have to make a choice. So far, it's just allowed me that my energy was enough to do both, let's say. But yeah, with the company, I think if I would like to be involved more in there, I think I need to move towards more industrial and more applicable solutions and results. And again, in KAUST, we're very fortunate with our facilities and so on, so it allowed me to do both at the time.
So you're switching hats between entrepreneurship and research kind of continuously to look at things with different lens as you move forward, yeah? It's like juggling multiple things, and that's the entrepreneurial life. And going back...
That's right. I got a couple of different hats so that I could, I could get in the mood to change it.
So, well then, and going back to your question, Ali, as well, we got a lot of different, and good to see you in here as well. Yeah, so we got a lot of different offerings as well. We do support the entrepreneurship activities, whether it's from all different bodies within the community, to help them throughout the area, whether it's Taqaddam Accelerator program or all different kind of programs. We'll be happy to support on that journey moving forward. All the academic offerings for the students, like the elective courses for the students. And actually we have now Entrepreneurship for All running up in like next door here in Building 19 when we get a good number of students engaged into it as an exposure to entrepreneurship, yeah. Any other questions from the crowd? Abdel-Aziz? Okay, cool. So we get some questions coming in here. So one question saying, how can a young scientist or entrepreneur compete with huge companies with all the research and development departments? And I think the question is like, how would a David kind of, let's say, compete with Goliath? So this is no assigned person for it, but please, the floor is open. Derya, Paul,
I think on some... Yeah, I mean, on some level, it seems quite appropriate for me because we are really quite a small company. We still are.
Busy market you got into, and there was a lot of Goliaths in there are operating. So it's like, how did you kind of knock them down?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the focus on what you want to achieve. And then I think it's that kind of drive to go after that and the specialization, you might say. Even though our resources aren't as great as some of our competitors, perhaps their problems are so wide, or their opportunity is so wide that perhaps there's just a limit to how much resource that any entity has. And with us being smaller, we could just focus on some smaller elements of what we actually wanted to achieve, and so very much the David in the Goliath kind of scenario, and yeah, I suppose that is it really, having perhaps the determination to make some small gains, and not perhaps be distracted by such a huge potential almost, or options of being a bigger brand as such, where you've got many more arms to kind of consider, I guess. But
and in many cases, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, as well, is like in many cases as well, is like at the early stages you will be operating under the radar, so it's like you will be kind of invisible even for the Goliaths of the world, right? But then you need to grow. And I remember Jeff Pace's got really interesting saying you would enjoy their time where they were operating under the radar, and that's a luxury to have. But once you get on the surface, then that's where it becomes quite challenging. So actually, it's a luxury that is like you're operating within kind of let's say that kind of scale that you're at the entry level. Derya, you wanna chime into this?
Yeah, I think it's another really good and great question. I also would say it's focus. I remembered the book called The One Thing. I could suggest to people if you haven't read through and going these days as well, it's very interesting. It tells you you should do the one thing and what is your one thing. That's the thing that you need to figure out, obviously. But if you look all the even big companies and look what they are doing, they actually do just one thing and they are extremely good at it, and all the other things come around it. So when you start doing that small, that doesn't matter. That really differentiates you, and the grit, to keep going, and then you can actually make it better than them, because then you realize the problems, and of course, the technology evolves, and the necessities changes, of course. And yeah, that's one thing I wanted to mention. I was also gonna say another book or so, but to people, but I forgot the name now. But again, I mean, focusing on the one thing that you're really good at would make a difference. And also depending on your strategy, right? With a startup, for instance, I don't know, some companies have an exit strategy, for instance, and then you just make the idea, you just want to sell it to a bigger company and then done. Some startups start with a different motivation that, Paul has been running this 20 years. I wanted to ask him, like, have you not thought about any other idea or anything that came up, for instance, from it? It's such a determination to me. Nowadays world, people are still consuming ideas, They want to, as I said, do it and just jump to another thing and another thing. It's incredible to do a business for 20 years. And when you do it right and good, I think you survive.
Yeah, so congratulations, Paul, on this resilience. Amazing. Yes, exactly. This is an amazing resilience example and experience that we're looking at in here. So congratulations and well done. And I wanted to add to you, Derya, I think in your case, you got superior advantage in the technology that you're developing. So you're having really a great head start of the number of years of research that is happening in your lab. And actually, that is even a privilege for all of you here in the crowd, especially students, researchers, postdoc. You will be fully engaged with stuff that's been in the kitchen for quite some time. And it's not easy to replicate. On top of that, usually you would have your IP that is protecting you against the competition, which is the intellectual property. So you're having really a great head start by superior technology, IP protection, and then with the business part is going to be the challenging case in it. So another question coming up as well from the audience asking about, is entrepreneurship considered inherited or gained through time? Are entrepreneurs born or trained? Anybody wants to take that? Please.
I wonder what Mohamed thinks. I want to later.
I'm expecting that they're largely born, aren't they? Isn't there? There must be some sort of characteristics that would tend, to be prevalent in entrepreneurs. I would say there must be some kind of, personality type. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you probably get onto the sort of nature-nurture conversation about whether you're born or whether it's your early experiences that make you into who you are. And probably, as we'd all agree, it's probably a mixture of both. But there's some sort of personality traits, I'm sure, or some sort of characteristics that would, I'm sure, encourage an entrepreneurial approach, I would say. Yeah, some fundamentals in there, I think. Yeah.
I'll just add one thing is that I think there's definitely a characteristic in people that are entrepreneurs. There's a desire to do something different. But I think it's not enough. I think the ecosystem around them has to nourish and support that. And sometimes when you don't have that ecosystem around them, that desire goes nowhere. And I think, again, we're lucky and fortunate that we have the support that is around KAUST, around entrepreneurships, Hattan, your function as well, and the entire leadership is pushing towards allowing these ideas to come forward. So even if you didn't know you're an entrepreneur and didn't have that desire, but then you start to feel it, then there's an opportunity for you to take it further. So take advantage of what's around you, because not everybody has that opportunity.
Yeah, if I may add, actually, I don't think, I agree with Paul, like some people are born and some people are not, but the ones that are not doesn't mean that they can't be entrepreneurs. If you look for big companies, they all come as a team or even a buddy, like you talk about two people usually. One usually has really good ideas and the other one sort of executes, or one has a business mind, one has a tech mind, It's really a teamwork, and that's literally more than 90% of it. So sometimes you might have really good ideas, but you don't know how to make it a business or a product or a thing. So you really need to find, which I think is the hardest part, a partner that you can go along with it. So there are certain personality types. Some people are more extrovert and finisher and think more action, and some people are creators and ideators, really think thoroughly. But that doesn't mean that the ideators have to finish the job, for instance. And it's really a diversity of a team to have all these elements around it, so-called, I call it ecosystem or whatever that is, to find that dream team to make your ideas come true. I think those are the ones that are really picked up and move forward. I'm sure there are so many good ideas around, but it's just a matter of how that magic sphere comes together to make it a reality.
Yeah, I agree with you, Derya. And actually, our perspective is that entrepreneurship can be taught. And the idea is, so I tend to disagree with you, Paul, in that, where we believe if we got the, let's say, the competences, the essential competences, then we wanted to let people explore themselves. And the same kind of argument can be built again in different kind of talent or areas that you want to. So the idea is just to explore, experiment, and then they can pick up the pieces together, build a team around it to fill in, let's say, the complementary set of skills that they would need to pursue their journey moving forward. But it's something that is worth experimenting for because there is a lot of uncertainty into it, and it's good to explore moving forward. We have a question in here, but if you allow me, real quick one to Paul. So, and this is specifically for you. It's like, what kept you going for 20 years? Resilience is like...
It's a very good question. It's a very good question. I suppose fundamentally, I still enjoy it, and that's something not to be sort of too flippantly said or undervalued. I do actually enjoy what I'm doing. I get excited by new product. I get excited by, I suppose, the growth of the brand. And yeah, there's been, as Derya said, there must have been probably hundreds of thousands of other ideas that have cropped up over the years, and things that you kind of think, oh, that'd be interesting. That'd be great to pursue that. But then also, then you kind of think, well, okay, if I get distracted and everything becomes too diverse, then that's not going to work. And so the core has always been there. But thankfully, I've always found that to be quite exciting, or very exciting. I'm sure that if you're not excited by that or not committed to it, then I'm sure the 20 years doesn't happen. I'm sure you are looking to do something different earlier on. But I think that is the key thing, isn't it? Is if you truly believe in what you're doing or feel excited by what you're doing, then the longevity probably is going to be there.
Is the result, right?
Yeah.
So it's like excitement and commitment that will keep you going for 20 years.
Yeah, I guess that's, yeah.
Wow. All right, so congratulations. So we'd love to explore what's happening up next, what's coming up. We got a question here in the audience. We got a lot of questions flooding in, so it's like really wanted to move fast. So please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much for your quite good, mashallah, tabarakallah, contribution of today's proceedings. My question for Derya, she has said already that policies wouldn't change the approach that we are already seeking at energy and sustainability. So how is the people, as she said already, going to contribute in such approach? Today, we are looking forward for general public to deal with the issues that the whole society is facing right now. So what kind of approach are we seeking right now to make the general public more, let's say, more acknowledged about the whole situation that we are dealing with? Thank you.
Derya?
Yeah, if I understood correctly, you're saying what the general public will do about it. What I tried to say at that point was, as with intellectual or highly educated people, don't think that you cannot do anything. I think what you need to do is consciously choose to go to such roles. For instance, I think about Saudi Green Initiative, for instance, instead of a banking or a consulting job, for instance, and then you could go there and then work towards making a change. That was my sort of point. And I said policies will not come from those type of minds who are not really thinking towards future and sustainability, and it's our future. And I want to make the point, as I said, go to such kind of roles and jobs in your career and life so that we can be the change. And then the general public will have to follow those rules and the policies, of course, but my point was starting from us going through those key roles in the policy, governments, etc. I hope it's clear.
Thank you, Derya. And so maybe to add to that, is like in many cases, especially entrepreneurial cases, in many cases, sometimes the entrepreneurs will be ahead of the policy. And usually that's a really good place to be in. I will give you an example. One of the companies that we worked with in the center is called Cura. So this company started in 2016, and they were looking at telemedicine using mobile devices. At that time, they even had difficulty with the regulations because there was no regulatory body, or they didn't have, let's say, medical practice license in order to pursue what they're doing. But they moved forward with it, and they're trying to, let's say, to work with the policymakers moving forward. And then guess what? COVID hit, and then telemedicine was kind of forced upon us, right? And who was ready? Cura. They've done an amazing job. They deployed with Ministry of Health, and they've been growing. They provided more than 2 million consultations already. They've just closed $4 million of funding, and they run with it. And the same case would go to different areas where you're pushing the frontier of technology deployment. Imagine, let's say, shared car ride like Careem and Uber, and they had difficulties at the beginning with the policy making because it was illegal to transport people using private vehicles, right? But they pushed the boundaries, they pushed the envelope, and then they made it through. And that's usually a good sign, let's say, to capture those kind of opportunities. And usually policymakers, especially here in Saudi, they're very open, they're very cooperative to adapt those policies for the new norms that we live in. So I'm afraid that we're running out of time. It went really, really fast, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. So, but before we close, I just wanted to turn over to the speakers and the panelists in here. Any last words you wanted to share with the audience on pursuing things move forward for the students, the researchers, the faculty members who are listening to us today? Paul, you've been here new to KAUST, and you've been about and around different places. Where do you see, and what advice you would give to the student body in here?
Well, I mean, as I say, I've been lucky enough to be here for a couple of days, and I've been shown various parts of the campus. And my overriding feelings are how impressed. I mean, it's an amazing institution, and I am absolutely blown away by the sort of provision, the whole ethos, and I feel that anybody who has the opportunity to use this facility and this institute is incredibly lucky, and I'm sure value it immensely, because the opportunity that exists here, I think, is incredible. You've got such a gathering of intellect, ambition, and support, and as we all agree, don't we? The future is in the hands of the younger people now, and we've got, for sure, a great deal of challenges to face, and we need to find solutions for some very, very significant and very big problems. And it's institutions like this that I'm sure could be leading the way in that, as you obviously are. But yeah, absolutely, totally impressed by what I've seen in these couple of days.
Thank you. Derya, any words to the audience?
Yes, I would say also to all KAUST students and people attending and globally to become entrepreneurs, become sustainable entrepreneurs for our future, for our kids and next generation's future as well. And find your stamina in it, stick to it, and you will be successful. And if you do it as you love and do what you love, as Paul and all of us mentioned, you will be successful. And I'm really hoping to see everyone in campus in person very soon. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Derya. Mohamed.
My last comment is, as Hattan, I've had a chance to attend what's known as the Consumer Electronics Show, CES, in the US just a few days ago. And in that event, I think I've seen everything that can be done is actually presently available in that event. competition is fierce. Everybody's doing everything. I think the recipe book has been open, right? The internet has allowed everybody to be able to come up with new ideas and see what others are doing. The competition is just unbelievable. And I think the difference is those that focus on a value proposition of a proper brand and a user-centric focus, I think they have a more advantage than others. But the truth is, the world has become a very competitive place. So find your angle, find your value proposition and stick to it and do it really, really well, because you'll be surprised how many others are thinking the same way that we are and you are thinking. So stick with your value proposition and keep upping your game.
All right, thank you, Mohamed. And if you allow me to wrap up, I think what I heard from all of you maybe can be summarized with Peter Drucker's quote. And he says something like, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And I think it's an equal opportunity. It's a playing field for everybody globally to create an impact. And it's, at the end of the day, it's our choice. So with this, I would wrap up. And I apologize for the questions that we couldn't get to. A lot of questions came in online and in the audience. And we look forward to see you soon in a future event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul.